Hi everyone, welcome back to the Imagination Lab Music Theory channel. In this video we're dealing with some nitty-gritties of musical notation, the rules for beaming notes and grouping rests. Incidentally, beams are those lines which connect the stems of quavers or quarter notes and semiquavers, eighth notes, and all the smaller note values, grouping them into beats. Music notation has rather a lot of rules and conventions for grouping notes and rests. It's so that music notation can be standardized and legible. However, fear not, because we've whittled down all those rules to 12 points which pretty much cover all the aspects involved. In the first part of this video, we'll give you 6 tips for beaming, and the second half, it's 6 tips for grouping rests. Okay, let's jump in. Part 1. 6 useful tips for beaming and grouping notes. The purpose of beaming notes together is to clearly show where the beats fall in the music, making it easier to read and understand the rhythm. So the first rule is group and beam notes to clarify the beats. The beams indicate that all the notes joined together belong to the same beat. When checking your groupings, a good rule of thumb is to see if you can draw an imaginary circle around each beat. Rule 2. Avoid ties whenever possible. Occam's razor says that the simplest explanation is often the most accurate. This applies to music too. Don't use a tie when a single note will do. The exception to this is in compound time, where a note tied across a beat must stay tied, but in all other cases, it's better to use one note. Rule 3. In 2/4, 3/4, and 4/4 time signatures, 2 quavers, which could be replaced by a crotchet, and 4 quavers, which could be replaced by a minim, are grouped together. So, as you can see in these simple time signatures, these 2 quavers could be replaced by a crotchet or quarter note, so we beam them. And these 4 quavers can be replaced by a minim or half note, so we group them together so that the rhythm is clearly legible. Rule 4. In a 3/4 time signature, if you have 6 quavers, you can beam them all together to fill the bar. And the same rule applies to 3/8. If you have 6 semiquavers, they can be grouped and beamed all together across the whole bar. Rule 5. In 2/4, 3/4, and 4/4 time signatures, group 4 semiquavers together. And in 2/2, 3/2, and 4/2, group 8 semiquavers. If your semiquavers can be replaced by a crotchet, you beam them together. Similarly, in 2/2, 3/2, or 4/2, the same thing applies to 8 semiquavers, which could be replaced by a minim. Rule 6. In 4/4 time, don't beam quavers across beats 2 and 3. And in the same way, in 2/2 time, don't beam between the 2 minim beats. Here you can see in 4/4, beats 2 and 3 must be kept separate. Part 2. 6 useful tips for grouping rests. Rule 1. A completely silent bar in any time signature is shown by a semi-brief rest. A semi-brief rest is the one that hangs from the 4th line of the stave and is slightly higher than the minim rest, which sits on the 3rd line. Rule 2. Keep rests to a minimum. In general, there should be as few rests as possible. For example, excessive rests can make it difficult to identify where the beats fall. However, there are 2 exceptions to this rule, which will be explained in the next 2 points. Rule 3. Use a new rest at the start of each silent beat. Apart from empty bars and quadruple time, where half the bar is silent, in all other cases, every distinct beat gets its own rest. Rule 4. Show each subdivision when a silence lasts less than a beat. In both simple and compound time, you can't use the dotted rest for a silence shorter than a full beat. Rule 5. When a note's duration only forms part of a beat, arrange the rests from longest to shortest before that note, or shortest to longest if they fall after the note. Rule 6. In compound time, a silent beat can be shown either as a dotted crotchet or a crotchet and a quaver rest. Both of these are actually correct. That's a wrap on all you'll need to know for beaming notes and grouping rests. Here are all the rules written out together. Make a note of them so that your scores are always faultless. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to get notifications of all our new music theory videos as we make them. Thanks so much for watching and see you next time.